It started like any regular night. I was home, scrolling through some memes, thinking about whether I wanted to eat the leftovers or just skip dinner. Around 9, I heard the key turn in the door. My girlfriend came in crying. Not subtle crying, the kind where you can't breathe, where your chest jerks like something's crawling out from under your ribs. Her hands were shaking and her bag dropped to the floor like it weighed a ton. She hugged herself and didn't look at me right away. She told me some guy followed her 2 blocks from the train station. She said he didn't say anything, just walked behind her real close, like breathing down her neck. She crossed the street. He crossed too. She turned a corner. He turned too. When she reached our block, she started running. He stopped a few houses away and just stood there, watching. She said we should call the police. Said it calmly, like she already knew they wouldn't do anything. I said no, not yet. I was pissed. The kind of pissed that makes your vision go tight. I needed to see the guy. I ran outside, didn't even put on shoes. The street was almost empty, but under the orange streetlight glow, I saw someone walking slow near the end of the block. Shirtless, muscular. He looked like someone you'd see in a prison yard, not a sidewalk in a quiet neighborhood. My gut said turn back, but I didn't. I got in the car and started driving. I trailed him with the headlights off. He was wearing shorts, that's it. No shoes, no shirt, nothing else. His back muscles were huge and twitching with every step. I pulled the car up behind him, keeping distance. That's when he stopped, dead still. Then he turned. He stared straight at the windshield. I froze. His face was wrong. Jaw hanging slightly open, eyes wide and dry like they didn't blink. There was something too calm in the way he tilted his head. Then, without warning, he ran at the car. He didn't just tap the window. He jumped on the hood like an animal. Both fists started slamming the windshield. I heard cracks spread across the glass like spider webs. I screamed and reached for the gear shift. The engine roared. I hit the gas, but before I could roll up the driver's window, his arm shot through. His hand grabbed my neck like a vice. His fingers were hard, rough. He pulled with inhuman strength. I was halfway out the window before I even registered what was happening. My back slammed into the pavement and my head bounced off the concrete. My ears rang. He stood over me like he wanted to rip something open. I tried to get up, to throw a punch or something, but then I saw him standing fully in the glow of the street lamp. He wasn't just muscular, he was twitching. Veins bulging on his forehead, foam at the corners of his mouth. His pupils were pinned like he was on something hard. He sniffed the air and smiled. A slow, stretched smile like he was tasting fear. I turned and ran. There wasn't even a plan in my head, just escape. I could hear him behind me, feet slapping the road, not like a man running, but something heavier, faster. I cut through the gate to the nearby park, my heart exploding in my chest. I picked up a rock, turned around, and hurled it blindly. I hit him in the shoulder and he didn't flinch, just tilted his head again and kept walking toward me. No words, just heavy breathing. He started running. I ran deeper into the park, dodging benches, trash cans, anything. I looked for light, for people. There was nothing. Every step he took behind me sounded louder, like thunder on pavement. I saw the public restroom. It looked abandoned, but the door was open just a crack. I bolted inside, slammed the door shut, and locked it. My breath came in gasps. I could barely stand. Then I heard the pounding. Fist after fist slamming into the door like a battering ram. The hinges creaked. Something cracked. I backed into the stall, ready to puke. The door was giving way. Every blow pushed it in a little more. My body froze, but my brain screamed for something, anything. I ripped the lid off the toilet tank and held it in both hands. Cold, wet ceramic. It weighed a ton. My fingers slipped, but I held on. Then the door exploded inward. He stood there, framed by the doorway, breathing hard, nostrils flaring. He looked around like a predator cornering prey. His eyes landed on me. A low growl came from his chest. I didn't wait. I lifted the toilet lid and smashed it into his face with every ounce of strength I had left. The sound was disgusting. Bone cracked. He stumbled backward, dazed. For the first time, I saw confusion in his eyes. I took that chance and ran past him, blood splashing on the tile. But he wasn't down. As I passed, he grabbed my ankle and sank his teeth deep into it. The pain was white hot. I screamed, kicked him in the jaw, once, twice, again. His teeth tore my skin before he finally let go. I could see blood on his chin. My blood. He looked at me and laughed. It wasn't human. That laugh will stick with me till the day I die. I limped out of that bathroom, leaving behind part of my foot and all of my sanity. I ran through the park with a torn ankle, barely able to move. My foot was numb and wet. Every time I stepped, pain shot through my leg like broken glass. I could hear him again, following, fast. I zigzagged, looking for anything that would block his view. I crawled under a broken fence and dropped into someone's backyard. The sprinklers came on. Cold water soaked me. I didn't care. I kept crawling, over flower beds, through bushes, across wet dirt. I reached the front yard and saw a car driving by. I waved, screamed. They didn't stop. I cursed them as loud as I could. Then I saw movement again. That same figure, coming around the side of the house, silent, focused, like he was born to hunt. I limped into the street, ran 2 blocks, maybe 3, I don't remember. Time stopped making sense. My body moved on fear. My house appeared in the distance. I crashed through the front door, locked it behind me, collapsed on the floor. My girlfriend screamed when she saw me. She called the cops. I just lay there, sobbing, the taste of blood in my mouth, trying not to black out. The cops got there 10 minutes later. They found him 2 streets over, still shirtless, sitting in someone's yard covered in blood that wasn't just mine. He didn't resist, just sat there whispering to himself, rocking back and forth. They told us he was an escapee from a psychiatric facility 20 miles out of town. He'd been missing for 3 days. Apparently, I wasn't the first person he'd attacked, but I was the first to get away alive. I spent the night in the ER, dozens of stitches, 2 cracked ribs, bruising everywhere. They pumped me full of antibiotics for the bite, said I was lucky he didn't rip a tendon. My girlfriend never let go of my hand the whole time. We barely spoke, just stared straight ahead like the world had tilted and we didn't know how to stand anymore. Back home, I couldn't sleep. Every noise outside made me jump. Every dream ended in teeth, in blood, in that laugh. I checked the locks 10 times before lying down, then got back up and checked again. There was no comfort anymore, no safety, only the memory of his hands around my throat and the sound of him whispering, "You taste scared." Weeks passed. People said I should be happy he was caught, that I survived. But the truth is, I didn't. Not really. That thing out there, it wasn't a man. It was something that walked around wearing skin like a mask, and it looked right at me. It saw something in me, something weak. It's like he smelled it and wanted to tear it out. My girlfriend doesn't walk home anymore. She quit her job. She doesn't talk much about that either. Sometimes I catch her staring out the window at night, like she's waiting for someone to come back. I know the feeling. I feel it too. He's in some facility now, sedated, restrained. They say he won't ever be released. But that doesn't mean anything. He didn't need weapons, didn't need help, just his body, his madness, and the hunger in his eyes. If he ever gets out again, he'll come back. I'm sure he will. It doesn't make sense. He doesn't even know where I live. But I can't shake that fear. He will come for us.
I had 3 hours of highway ahead and nothing else to think about. I was alone, driving my sister's old SUV back from her storage unit in Manchester, trying to make it home before 2 a.m. There was no one else on the road, just my headlights cutting through the dark, the dashcam rolling like always, and the sound of tires against asphalt. I didn't like driving this late, but I'd done it before. I Wasn't expecting anything. The main route was closed. GPS rerouted me down a 2-lane stretch through the woods, pitch black on both sides. No streetlights, no signs, just road and trees. It felt endless. Now and then I'd pass a mile marker, but I stopped checking. I wanted it to be over. I just kept one hand on the wheel and the other resting near the high beams, eyes ahead. I hadn't passed another car for almost 30 minutes. My phone was on airplane mode to save battery. I didn't think I'd need it. I trusted the road. That was a mistake. About 40 minutes into that detour, I started seeing small piles of branches on the edge of the road. At first, I thought it was debris from wind or maybe a truck losing its cargo, but the clusters were too neat, spaced too perfectly to be random. Each time I passed one, the next was bigger, like someone had been layering them. I tapped the brakes when I saw the 5th pile. It was spread across both lanes, impossible to miss unless you were blind or sleeping. I slowed down to check the pile. The cuts were fresh, clean. Someone had trimmed these limbs recently. They weren't deadfall. They were placed there. It looked like a trap. My eyes flicked to the mirror. Nothing behind me, just road. No cars, no lights. I moved forward slowly, trying to maneuver around it, but my front tire bumped into something sharp. The car jolted. The warning light came on. Pressure dropped. My stomach dropped. I backed up just a few feet when something ran across the road behind me. Fast, human-shaped, but gone before I could focus. I slammed the brakes and stared at the tree line. I didn't get out. I didn't even unbuckle. I turned the wheel, checked my surroundings again, and realized I was boxed in by more of those piles. When I looked back at the one I'd just passed, it had moved. Or maybe it was a different pile, but I hadn't seen it before. There was more wood now, bigger chunks, blocking everything. The silence made it worse. I kept the engine running, windows up, doors locked. I couldn't turn around without driving into a ditch, and now the front tire was hissing. I reached for my phone, took it off airplane mode, but there was no signal. I checked it twice. Still nothing. I was stuck. Then I heard something snap outside. Not a twig. Something heavy, like a branch under weight. I leaned forward and scanned the woods. The high beams barely lit the trees. That's when I saw movement. A person stepped out of the woods, right into the light. They were tall, covered in a hooded coat that looked soaked or stained. I couldn't see their face, but I saw what they were holding. A hatchet, dragging against the ground, leaving a trail in the dirt. They didn't run. They walked like they had all the time in the world. I reached for the gear shift, ready to reverse out, when something slammed into the back of the car. I lurched forward. The whole car shook like I'd been rear-ended. I looked in the rearview mirror. Another one, standing there, closer than the first. No coat, just skin. Pale, blotchy, dirt all over his chest. His mouth was open. Not yelling, just open. A third figure stepped into the beam of the headlights from the left. This one was dragging more branches, not carrying them, dragging them like a sack of trash. That's when I knew they weren't just blocking the road. They were building something. Behind me, in front of me, on both sides. I cracked the window just an inch to listen. They weren't talking, just breathing. I could hear them sucking in air through their teeth, slow and loud, like they wanted me to know they were close. The one in front stepped closer and raised the hatchet, not to hit me. Not yet. He rested it against the hood like he was marking the spot. I shouted at them, What do you want? I have nothing. Just leave me alone. No answer. One of them started circling the car, dragging a metal hook along the paint. It screeched as it moved, and I couldn't breathe. I didn't want to open the door. I didn't want to stay either. I made a decision. I threw the door open and jumped out, keys in my hand, feet hitting the dirt before I had time to think. I ran toward the tree line, not even looking at where the figures were anymore. I just ran and ran into the dark, deeper into the woods where at least I could hide. Branches scraped my arms. Thorns tore my sleeves. I didn't stop until I couldn't see the road anymore. The woods weren't empty. I stepped on something hard and metal. Then more. I crouched and moved the leaves. There were car parts half buried in the ground. A broken grill. A mirror. A whole door was crushed and rusting. It wasn't one car. There were at least 4, maybe more, all torn apart and dumped here like trash. No tags, no glass, just shells. Then I heard footsteps. Not slow like before. Fast. They knew I was in the trees. I dropped flat to the ground, belly down, covering myself in leaves. I saw legs moving just a few feet from where I lay. One of them held a flashlight now, scanning below. Another had a knife, dragging it through the brush, cutting away anything in their path. I ran into the woods without looking back. The trees closed in fast, branches tearing at my face and arms. I could barely see, but I didn't stop. I heard them behind me, 3 or 4 of them, not shouting, not rushing, just coming. I dropped behind a fallen tree and held my breath. One of them passed so close I could see the edge of a blade scraping bark as he walked. He didn't look around. He didn't have to. They were sweeping the forest slowly, methodically, like they knew I'd break before they did. I moved again, crawling through mud and dead leaves. Every sound I made felt loud enough to give me away. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stop. My foot hit something, and I fell hard. When I looked up, one of them was there, face covered, knife in hand, breathing through his mouth like he didn't feel anything. I rolled and scrambled backward until I found cover again. They didn't chase. They just waited. They were pushing me deeper, cutting off my way out without making a sound. It felt like hours. I kept crawling, limping, ducking. Every time I thought I was alone, a noise, snapping wood, heavy footsteps, reminded me that I wasn't. They weren't trying to catch me fast. They wanted me tired, hurt, lost. At one point I heard a scream, but not like before. This was sharp and high, somewhere far off. I dropped low and didn't move for 10 minutes. When I got up, my leg was stiff, bleeding, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. Through the trees, I finally saw a break. Light. Open sky. I limped faster, falling twice before reaching a narrow dirt road. No one followed. No voices. Just the sound of birds starting up, like it was any normal day. When the sun finally came up, I kept walking, dragging one leg. I didn't stop until I reached the edge of a dirt road. A pickup truck passed around mid-morning. I just cried and told him to drive. At the nearest gas station, I called the police. They questioned me for hours. When they went to look, they didn't find my car. No tire marks, no cut branches, no footprints, nothing. Like the whole thing had been scrubbed clean. I didn't go back there. I won't. But someone else will take that same road one night. Maybe alone. Maybe tired, like I was. And when they do, someone will be waiting. They've done this before. I was just the one that got away. I parked outside the strip mall around 2 in the afternoon. It wasn't crowded, just a few scattered cars, and no one was really hanging around. I left the dashcam running like I always do. Bad habit turned routine after my last car got sideswiped, with no one taking responsibility. I locked the door, grabbed my bag, and headed into the store to pick up some shampoo, snacks, and a soda. I wasn't inside for more than 20 minutes. I came back, tossed everything in the passenger seat, took a sip of my soda, and pulled out of the lot. Nothing weird happened. No one approached me. Nothing felt off. It was just a normal afternoon. I didn't think twice about anything. That night, I was messing around with my dashcam footage on my laptop, trying out the new time-lapse feature. I wasn't expecting anything, but something caught my eye. About 3 minutes after I went inside, someone stepped into frame. He wasn't walking past, he wasn't going into the store. He was standing still, just outside the view of my side mirror and looking directly into my windshield. He started circling the car. Not fast, not slow, just steady. His movements were deliberate. He walked to the passenger side, leaned forward like he was peering through the glass, then circled back to the front. He didn't touch anything. He didn't try the door. He just stared into the car as if studying something or someone. His mask was what made it worse. It was tight, semi-transparent, stretched over his head like a second skin. You could still see the outline of his nose, his mouth, the shadows of his eyes. He didn't blink once. I rewound the clip 3 times, pausing every few seconds. The guy moved like he was alone. No one else walked by. He came from nowhere and left in the same direction, calmly stepping out of frame. I sat, frozen at my laptop, hand over the mouse, trying to slow my breathing. My mind kept telling me it was random, a fluke, someone messing around. But it didn't feel random. I started thinking about every stop I made that week, every moment I left the car unattended. I wondered if he had seen me leave that day, if he followed me. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound in the hallway made me look at the door. The next morning I went to work, but I couldn't shake it. I felt like I was waiting for something I couldn't name, something I wasn't ready to face. I noticed the truck about 6 blocks from my apartment. Black pickup, cracked windshield, rust on the wheel wells. It turned behind me and didn't pull away. I switched lanes. So did it. I took 3 turns, slowed down at the same lights. Still, it was there. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter, but I tried not to show I was panicking. I didn't want to stop, but I had to know. I pulled into a gas station. The truck didn't follow, but it parked across the street. I watched through the side mirror as it sat there, engine running, windows up. I kept fueling the car even after it was full, hoping he'd leave. He didn't. I stared at the pump, pretending to be busy, then got back into the car and pulled out slowly. As soon as I turned the corner, I floored it and took side streets until I was sure he wasn't behind me. That night, I reviewed the dashcam footage again. Same truck. Caught in the edge of the frame just past the gas station. A figure inside. The mask was barely visible through the glass, but it was him, no doubt. The same guy. He had followed me there. And I was sure now. He knew where I lived. I placed a chair under the door handle and blocked the windows with furniture. I didn't know what else to do. My apartment was quiet, but Every creak in the pipes made me jump. I held a kitchen knife while trying to sleep. I didn't close my eyes for more than a minute. I woke up to the sound of water dripping. Not loud, but sharp in silence. I walked back to the bathroom. The faucet was on. I hadn't used it. I shut it off, heart pounding, and turned back. The hallway lights were on now. I hadn't left them on either. I walked into the living room and stopped cold. The front door was still locked, but the chain latch was hanging loose, swinging a little. I checked the windows. Locked. Nothing broken. No sign of forced entry. But something was off. Things had moved. A glass I left in the sink was on the table. A blanket from the couch was on the floor, folded. Then I found it. A small black camera, hidden between the couch cushions, pointing toward my bedroom door. I pulled it out with shaking hands. There was tape residue on the side. It had been stuck there, watching, recording. I ran to my bedroom. My drawers were open. Some clothes were missing. On the nightstand was a receipt from the store, the same one I bought the shampoo and snacks from. I never took it out of the bag. Someone had been in my apartment, not just once, more than once. I sat down, breath shallow, trying to make sense of it. I didn't call the police. I should have, but I was afraid they wouldn't believe me. I packed a bag, left the apartment, and drove until I found a motel in another town. I paid cash. I didn't turn on any lights. After 2 nights in that motel, I forced myself to go back. I parked far from the building, walked in slowly, checking every window and corner. It felt quiet, too quiet. I unlocked the door with one hand, pepper spray in my coat pocket. Inside, everything looked the same. I checked every room, every closet. Nothing. I thought maybe he was gone. Maybe I'd scared him off. But then I heard a faint click from the hallway. I turned around and the light in my bedroom switched on by itself. I stepped forward holding my breath. The room looked empty. I moved toward the closet, and just before I could reach for the handle, it creaked open. He stepped out, 1 foot first, like he had all the time in the world. The mask was still on. He didn't make a sound. No shouting, no warnings. He just walked toward me. I grabbed the nearest lamp and swung as hard as I could. It cracked against his arm, but he didn't stop. He grabbed me by the jacket and threw me back against the bed. My ribs hit the edge of the frame. I gasped, reached into my coat, and sprayed pepper spray straight into his face. He stumbled, clawing at his eyes, and dropped to his knees. I ran. I slammed the bathroom door behind me and didn't look back. I made it to the stairwell and ran down 3 floors, banging on neighbors' doors until someone opened. I barely got a word out before she called the cops. I could still feel his grip on my jacket hours later. The police found him lying on the floor of my apartment, half blind, curled up near the window. He didn't speak, didn't ask for help, just stared straight ahead. He had a bag with him. Inside were gloves, more cameras, and a USB drive with dozens of folders. Each folder had a woman's name. Most had videos, some pictures, some maps. Mine was labeled with my first name, address, and a date from 3 weeks earlier. He'd been watching me since before I saw him in the parking lot. I know I wasn't the first, but I want to believe that I'll be the last one.